clean this block now. Took out the they were screwed in plugs, and I brushed right through and out the other end, gone right through, took those plugs out. I'm going to drill and tap those and put screw in plugs. All this has been degreased, cleaned. You can put your hand in all around these little corners and it all comes out clean. They were filthy, and in around here, all on the back of here. So each section I've cleaned right out and hoovered it, air lined it, cleaned all these holes out. There's no oil in them. I've got to take the gaskets off still, but I've just been blowing through all the machining work that I've been doing, all the swarf, and it was all lodging in the corners, and you could put your finger up right up in these top corners and you could dig out black. Nope. And you could feel it if you wiped your hands off on a cloth and went round every little nook and cranny. If you found any grit, it wasn't clean enough. So in the back of here, I've been round it now about 3 or 4 times and it's really good now. I've looked this up and these bearing positions want to be at 12 o'clock. So if that's 12, that'll be 3. So that's 1, 2. Okay. And that way, I put all the bearings in. This one here is a bit different, but I put that hole there on the 2 o'clock, and then I can mark the top like that. And I did that with all the bearings going through, put the oil hole on that mark the top, and then when I put it in the hole, put it in its journal hole, I can then line that up and tap it in. Ideal. So I don't know what all this drawing a picture is and putting it on a piece of paper and all that paraphernalia. Just do that. There. Easy. I am going to put just a touch of oil, because nothing like it's going in dry, ideally. There. And then if I just, I've got this homemade tool with a bit of brass on the end of it, offer that up to there. Gentle taps. It's a big hammer, but little taps. Knock that in. I know it's got to go further, but I'm just checking. And still further. Yeah. Make sure it's back in the seat properly. That might well be it. Right, that's just in there. And in here, ooh, probably go just a whisker more. Yeah, I reckon that's pretty good. There. Done. Just slipped in the camshaft. I have not turned this one bit, but it's gone in really easy. So I'm just going to turn it just to check the alignment of those bearings. And that is absolutely marvellous. I did put this camshaft in the original bearings and it spun okay, so it's a pretty good indication the cam was straight, but the new bearings have gone in beautiful. and oh, can't really feel any rock on that whatsoever. So that's feels like a damn good fit. So, conclusion is, inside those bearings, the grooves, if you can take the bearings out and put them back in, fine, but in the oiling groove inside was absolutely filthy. They were minging because there's trapped dirt and all sorts in there, especially from all this machining, but I think some of it was in there previously, so you gotta take them out. I think there's no good cheating because you'll only mess it up end of the day, and it was nothing to take them out with something machined up. That could done with being a wider shoulder and a longer bit of bar, because it didn't really, it's not long enough, but it worked. And all I did was hold this bar in this hole centrally as I knocked the bearings in, just eyeballed it up, and they, as long as you tap them in gentle, they'll go in. They're going fine. So everything's gone well. Finally, I put the crank in. Put that one on, the middle and the front. It turns like silk. So that's that. So I just got to put these other two on, just check it again. I've only done these up with a spanner, just nip them up, but that's pretty good. I plastic gauged the clearances, and they were narrower than a 2, but they weren't as narrow as the 3, so they're anywhere between 2 and 3, so it's like 2.5, 2.7, you know, and they were all like that, every single one except for the back one, which is 3 thou. I believe that one is meant to be slightly larger, I think. It's number 4. I've got a little concoction here. Not quite as runny as oil, and not as thick as grease. So now I'm going to put a little light oil on the thread and on the back of that nut. I think it goes in that one. Okay. So undo that slightly, and we'll do this one out. This one to go in. Now it's going in there, look. And I'll just nip that one down. Two different size spanners. There. Beautiful. Right, that's all the end caps on. Now what does it turn around like? Oh my god. If I put that there and a fly landed on it there, I reckon it would spin. That is beautiful. Had to set the thrust on this cam because it doesn't have a retaining plate, and that's a piece of bronze that I made ages ago, and I bored it out and I put a ball bearing in the end of it, and that rotates in there, and I've adjusted it now, so I've got about a couple of thou float on the cam. And this is the original cover, but I'll put a support bracket on it, strip, and this water pump has a lug, and this screw, you can wind that out, and if you have that not touching the cover, the cam will float in about 5 thou, springy, but as you move this in, you can feel the cover hitting this to the point where that really stops, and there's perhaps 2 thou real movement. So that's what I've got now. Here is a ball bearing which will rotate, which it does. It's just sort of, well, sort of pinged over the edge a bit to stop it falling out, but it doesn't matter if it, well, it's not going to fall out because there's 2 thou between there and the lid, and that's a 3/8 ball bearing, and that's 375, so it's not hardly going to fall out, is it? Also, while we're here, my original timing set definitely had play in the chain, and I measured the centers, and I think from memory it's 4 inches 521 thou, I think. Anyway, I measured this, and accurate I could get to, I was about, it's either 4 or 6/10 of a thou narrower together, which is pretty good. So I'm not 10 or 20 thou tighter together. So the old chain, the original chain, so I had play in it. Well, I put on this new set. This is just a sort of basic double row Cloy's chain set, and my Christ, it's tight, but it was tighter than that. You had to put that on, hook it on there, and you had to use a bolt to pull the sprocket on, and that was absolutely gin tight. If I take all the slack up there, so that's rigid, I can just about feel that moving. You know what I'm saying? It's flapping. It's just got a little bit of free play, just a titch. And what I'd done is I took the burrs off the inside. I marked inside of there with a pen, and across each one of them I gave it one stroke back and forth with a chainsaw file of the right diameter, one stroke, and I measured across the diameter of my vernier across each tooth, and I knocked that down, just clean that up by about a thou difference, and I had to do it again, and then I remarked it and did it again, and I cleaned up in here, and you could see that I just took off some burrs, and it's not exactly perfect, but I didn't dare go any further, and I just put a fraction of more play on that chain. It's still gin tight, but there's just that little, that you can see that if I put it over there, it stays there, and if I put it over there, it sort of stays there. If I go like that, it will kind of stay there, and if I put it over there, it kind of stays there, because the middle is, there's just a little bit. Well, my old chain was flapping in and out, and I think it was giving me erratic timing, so I'm hoping this one here, it's obviously going to free up a little bit more, but I didn't like it as tight as it was, because it's really pulling against your bearings on the crank and on the cam. I thought it's ridiculously tight. On this cover, I put a little bit of Vaseline, and then a piece of paper, and that measured about 3 thou. I put that on there, stuck that on there, And then put some ink on there. Like that. Put that cover on, press it onto there, press it onto the bolt holes, take it off, and you can see if it's touched that, as long as that is held back, and you can keep removing. What it does then is it leaves a little spot like that, and the spot at one point was quite big and it got smaller, so it was indicating it was hardly touching. And if I took that paper away and just cleaned that up and did it, it wasn't touching the lid. So I knew it was somewhere between 0 and 3000, just kissing. So you could take off a little bit more, and when you put that on, just clips it, you know you've got around 3000 between the cover and that. So you can, but it's a palaver, you've got to put this on and off about 20 times, get it right. Got this far, cleaned up the pump, put the pump on. It's only temporarily on with a couple of bolts. That bolt goes in the hole down here, and 2 longer studs go in there, but that'll do for now. Put the pulley on the front, and I've put all the lifters in. This is what it was all about to get this far, and they feel like absolute silk. There, beautiful. I've increased the height of these tubes so that at full lift, which is possibly that one, I've got all that coverage. There's the hole, there's the band, and it goes in and out that far. And close, they drop down to there. So, whereas before, that hole was virtually peeping out over the top edge. So, what a mission. Yeah, it's full lift, that one.